Now I found an interesting pattern for you today, and if you're an East Coast fisherman, this might be a new one to you, but I imagine some of you folks who fish in our western U.S. waters, you might have heard of it. It's a dry fly called the Rio Grande King. I saw it in a July 1968 issue of Sports Illustrated, and I knew I had seen it somewhere before, so I looked through a lot of my books, but I only found it in 2 of them. One of them was Raymond Scott Stetzer's Flies the Best 1000, in which he had it with some upright white duck slips for a wing, and then the other one I found it in was Dave Hughes' 1999 Trout Flies, in which he had it tied with white calftail for a wing, Trude style. And I did a little more research online, and that's the version I saw most often. As for the history of this exact pattern, well, it's not really known. We do know the Trude style of fly was created in 1906 by Carter Harrison from Chicago, I believe, but it was when he was fishing out on the Trude Ranch in Idaho. So it's likely this fly was created sometime after that, and maybe it was inspired by something like a standard coachman, but with a white calftail wing tied Trude style. But whatever the origin, it's a really cool looking fly, and according to a few of the sources I saw out there, it's been a really effective fly. Now I'm not going to call this a forgotten fly because there are a few references to it out there, but it does seem odd to me that it's not in more books. So there it is, the Rio Grande King, a pretty cool looking pattern, certainly a fairly simple tie. Now the only sizes I've seen this are 10s and 12s. I'm sure you could go bigger or smaller, but I'm going to go with a 12. This is a 1X long barbless dry fly hook, and I'm going to put some black thread down about to the start of the bend. And the tail, golden pheasant tippets. Just pick a feather that's going to, be about the right size where you can get both the black bars showing. I think that looks pretty good. If you don't have that, I'm sure it's going to be fine. But what I will do is grab the tips and then just reach in here and snip about 8, 10, maybe 12 fibers off. And that way I've kept the tips aligned and doesn't get too mangled up on me. So let's catch this in and check the length. Okay, I think that's going to be fine right there. And the next thing is our body, a black small chenille. And I've tried to strip off a little bit on the end, so I'm just catching in the bare thread core here. That will help you keep from having a lump back here. Now park your thread up front, not too close because you've got a Trude style calftail wing and a hackle. Now just wrap this body up. Now just catch it in up front, and what you could do, I suppose, is put those last, maybe one wrap on top of the last one if you wanted it thicker up toward the thorax. I haven't been doing that, and I think it's fine just the way it is. And the next thing I'm going to catch in is a pretty small tuft of calftail here. And if you take a small enough tuft, it'll stack okay. Let's see. Yeah, that's a little bit, these tips are going to be a little bit more aligned than if I didn't stack it at all. So I think that's going to be about the length I want right there, maybe a body. And I'm going to, before I catch it in, I'm going to spin my thread clockwise, cord it up a little bit. It'll help me get a tighter bite right here. So let's just put 2 or 3 tight wraps right here. And what I do with a lot of hair wings like this, whether it's a Trude wing or even a streamer, I'll lift it all up, put 1 wrap up under it, but don't go back under the hook, go back over the hook, and now go under it again. And what that does is it puts a wrap of thread just around the wing, which is going to help keep it from spinning around the hook on you. So there we go. I like that wing, and it's probably not going to go anywhere on us. Okay, I'm starting to crowd the eye a little bit, but I think we're going to be fine. Just smooth this out and leave our thread at the back of this head, at the front of that wing. Let's catch in our hackle. It's just a brown dry fly hackle. I cut this one to give me about 1 to 1.5 times the hook gap right there. That should work. Let's just catch this in. Okay, now wrap this up, and I would fairly heavily hackle it because that chenille is not going to be, very buoyant. Really, the only thing that's going to keep this fly on the surface is this hackle up here. So if you can get good 5 wraps, I say go for it. Okay, let's get a few more wraps here just to try to tighten this head up a little bit, and then we'll whip finish it. Okay, let's take a look at this one, critique it. I could have probably used 1 or 2 more wraps of hackle up there, but I think this thing is still gonna float, and I can still get my tippet through the eye, so we've got a fishable fly. So that's it, my friends, at Rio Grande King. I appreciate you watching. Y'all take care, and we'll see you next time.